All right, there we go. YouTube is linked. I will tweet and twat as soon as YouTube gives me the link, please. Thank you, YouTube. You're so kind. There we go. Podcast time with these ho hos. I'm not even want to tag. Yeah, I even want to tag spy.
Man, all the megas going out strong. Fuck. Except for NVIDIA. But even NVIDIA still, that's a fucking 12-point rip off the lows.
All right. All right. All right. Go. I have to fix GP's Twitter handle there and done. Woohoo! Merry Christmas to all. Happy Christmas Eve. Hi, Nicholas. You gave me a look when I said Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Is it not so
Santa.
merry?
Yeah, no, I am. Santa is
All
delivering.
right. All right. All right. GP, you are in a state of meh.
I'm just tweeting. Give me a second.
Sorry. Sorry, he's tweeting. Hi, Rachel. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, holidays, all of them. We're equal opportunity holiday lovers around these parts. It's great for you to join us. Thank you. It's been a long time. But hey, so we this is where we were at last week when we had this podcast. Just a little bit has happened. We're looking at the Tesla chart, but it doesn't matter. I can look at the cues. Yeah, there's where we were at, and then that happened. Um, Nick, well, what do you make of this?
Um, let's shake off the highs. I mean, when we have a bet like bars like that, again, we've kind of talked about it in the past, but if you don't see follow through after a nasty bar like that, like I just don't. The cheater entry, like I'm obviously looking if we get a bar like that, I'm looking for follow through because it was a pretty nasty bar.
Yeah, for sure.
The fuse barely took it out. I think the spies closed even with it, and then we got that nice gap down on Monday. Or wait, what day is it? Is it Wednesday?
Today is Tuesday.
Tuesday. Gap down on Friday. Um,
Yeah, the gap down Friday, then
I
to just power through all of Friday's session was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that was your signal. I think what I would prefer to see now is us to kind of either move sideways or chop over a little bit and then put in another like high volume big ripper bar would be kind of ideal. Your dude Nasty Nate had mentioned we were pushing into the 0.618 retracement from the highs to the low. Um, and again, kind of as I said before, that's not I'm typically watching the 50. And so like once we reclaim the 50, I'm like, all right, game's on. We're heading back towards the highs of like where we had those fibs drawn. So I think for the spies, I think that was like 597. Um, so let me draw them up. I don't remember.
Sorry, I moved the chart on the screen so people can see. There you go.
Yeah, sorry, the 50 was at 594. I'm sorry, the 0.618 was at 597, 598, and we kind of blew past that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it even.
Surprised? Vindicated?
I think
Worried? Like what's your feeling?
no, I'm not too worried. I think seasonality or seasonally, I think it still makes sense to be a little defensive and probably selling into this just to kind of see how we play out the first couple weeks of the year. The bar as of last week doesn't really change my thesis or even like, I'm still in agreement with, I think, both of you that we're going to see some type of, I don't know, sideways movement correction January through March, at least hopefully. I mean, I think that the action last week was definitely enough to shake a lot of people out. So maybe something maybe I don't know, maybe it's not needed, but I guess we'll kind of see.
GP? Anything to make of the last time we were on this podcast together?
One more thing I wanted to mention actually real quick. Sorry, GP. So again, like I was kind of telling you before we went on here, the McClellan is the indicator, the oscillator that I watch. It's tied to the NYSE. And going into into last week, even before the bottom kind of fell out on whatever day that was, on Wednesday, we were already like wildly oversold. And that pushed us like to the most oversold reading we've had all year on the McClellan. On top of that, I kind of watch, so on my main watch list, I've got like 1,500 stocks on it. And it's just kind of the names that I'm always adding to it so that the list is always growing. Unless a name like falls into the pennies, then I kind of wipe it off. But the overwhelming majority of this list, and I'm talking like over 50%, 60, 70% of this list has been continually red for the last probably 3 weeks. So I don't think it shouldn't be a surprise, I don't think, that we're getting the rally that we have, Friday through today. It's kind of really how we behave and what we do moving forward. I think that will determine whether or not you want to continue to be aggressive or at the very least paring down some positions and hedging.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I mean, I don't know. We can say it till we're blue in the face. Like, I don't, I'm a trail stopper. So, like, the market's got to force me out. I'm not going to be the kind of guy that's going to say, oh, I think the top is in, sort of thing. So, anyways, GP, it's all yours.
I got nothing to say. No, I'm joking.
What?
No,
I call bullshit.
uh, so last week, I don't think anyone was expecting that bar. It was already oversold, and then they just hammered it. Oddly enough, it was the expiration day. Oddly enough, it's the largest OPEX of the year. Oddly enough, they're just fuckers. So so yes, that it was we've talked about this for the last couple of years. It is a flow driven market. It is not a equity driven market, right? So flow stays bullish, market stays bullish, flow stays bearish. And so if you read everything coming into Wednesday, people's calls were deeply in the money. And by Wednesday, most of them were not. Is that coincidence? Okay, maybe it's coincidence, but the equities market is now driven, has been driven, continues to drive via flow, and flow is supportive as of now, going into January, where you'll still see upside bullishness. Um, I if you're in this market, honestly, the only thing you should be trading is Tesla. But that is just my personal opinion because it gives you wild movements. It gives you follow through. It gives you all the things that you kind of want to be trading. Like other things are just kind of going sideways. Look at Roblox. Somehow had a green week last week. I don't know how, but has done jack and shit for the last day and a half. Um, Apple continues to lead. Guess what else is leading? My little baby Netflix, right? Even though I'm fully out, I realize my gains. Netflix
Whoa,
is
whoa, whoa,
leading.
whoa, 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 whoa! You're not just going to speed past that. You are fully out of your Netflix position.
What?
Yeah, I trimmed it out around 917. Not because I don't think the stock is going higher, but because my entry, my average, my lowest buy point in Netflix was 166,
That's
and
not good.
my average was 206.
No,
So for
I
me,
don't think you need to explain
but
that part of it.
I'll
Yeah.
explain why I'm still not bearish just because I sold, right? And so I sold because I think the upside here is to maybe 11, 1200 on Netflix, right? On the upside here, maybe even a little bit higher. But for me, I have a 4x plus return, and it's not worth risking 200 to 300 points for me to lose the gains that I have. I rather realize it and allocate that money elsewhere. It doesn't mean I think Netflix is bearish. I just think there's better opportunities now that I've realized what I've wanted to realize from the first place, right? And so for me, it's also the measured move. I had the measured move at 920. It got to 920. I set a stop loss. It stopped me off at 917. And so this is a technical trade for me. This is not a bearish trade for me. I'm not like, oh my God, Netflix is done. Dude, they are launching Christmas football for the first time in their history. Squid Games, they're from AI, they benefit. I just don't see what the larger upside here is, and that's a lot of capital. Even at 10 shares, that's $9,000, right? So like if you're holding
Yeah,
100,000,
I'm not surprised that you sold some. I'm just surprised you're all out.
I'm all out from the trade of the COVID, the 2022 bottom. I still have shares in stuff that I bought long, long, long time ago, right?
Okay,
That was, but the trade
you're out of your
from
trading position. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, it was the long swing trade.
Yeah, yeah.
So still have those shares from a long time ago, but not the recent ones,
All
right?
right,
So
all right.
those are gone.
I was
So
like,
I'm not never fully out, but ultimately Netflix is still beasting. Apple is still beasting. You can talk about these gyrations, you can talk about everything else, but look at the underlying stuff that's going on, right? And that is you have obviously the two, to me, the market leader and the bull market leader are closing at all-time highs the day before Christmas, which if you were bearish, you should be slapped in the face. And if you were bullish, you can still be slapped in the face because ultimately it's only a handful of names that are still participating. So there's always time to be cautious. I um, I want to at some point talk about Tesla in depth, but not this moment. So I
No,
think I think we have a lot of upside here in names like I think Unity software looks fantastic. I think
yes.
I think AMD is going to lead chips in 2025. I think Disney looks fantastic. Um, so if you're in names like the Netflix that I sold out of, I'm trying to position into the names where I can think 2025, 2026 um, plays, right? And so uh, that's partially ultimately I don't have a fund where I can just raise another $1 billion and go allocate some more money like Kathy can. But
Not yet. You don't.
no, not yet, I don't. But it's so I have finite money, so I'm choosing to put where my resources are, right? And there's obviously the handful of names that I've said. There's a lot more, but I don't typically do my next year work until the last week of the year. So this next week or so, I'll be boiling down what I think can work in 2025 and 2026, right? So
All
be
right.
on the lookout for some of those charts. I'll have a list of probably 25 names, but I'll probably put my 4 to 5 most kind of thoughts around it, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but getting thoughts, putting charts together, all this stuff takes a lot of time, and that's time that I try to give back to the community, but I don't always have a ton of it to do. So it'll be around 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
Nick, when you're got 1,600 names on watch, how do you decide which ones you want to throw a chart on and which one you're just sort of looking at the price action?
I literally go through all 1,600 if I have to. I through them manually. There is nothing like screen time and chart time,
For sure.
and like you can do scans, whatever, to narrow it down. But I actually like um going through a lot of stuff, and you should be thinking about taking profit in. We talked about Wingstop a few months ago, right? That it was topping out. Look at it, man. It's going down. UNH, another one, didn't have the crazy reaction to the CEO being shot, but it's a widely held name. It is in a distributive pattern. Palantir is starting to fall into this list, right? So um, just stuff to kind of keep watching. Look, you see those distribution bars adding up in the uptrend on
Well,
UNH?
yeah, speaking of UNH, I mean, this is not a name that's known for wild volatility. 17% down in a month is a big, big move for a stock like UNH.
Correct, but it hasn't taken out the distribution. And so if you're looking at distribution, uh, we've been talking about this for 2 years now, and maybe it finally starts working out, is fucking energy, right? Look at XOM, look at XLE, look at Oxy, right? Buffett was supposed to save Oxy. That has not worked very well.
He's still
This
buying.
is this is the conversation we started at the end of 2022, where you go from peak energy earnings to peak low tech earnings, and they have swapped places, but energy is still kind of sitting here. I don't know why, but it's what it is, right? So
Nick,
um,
do you chart all 1,600 or are you just looking at price action?
No, I don't chart all of them. I scan them though. Typically if market's closed, the initial thing I'll do is I'll sort by price. Um, and pretty much everything above $100, I'll definitely like take some time and run through. Anything under $100, I don't really. I oddly always associate dollar amount with like leader. I don't know why. That's just what I do. And my go-to trade, like my go-to like short-term trades are typically like the more expensive stocks where I can catch like a 20 to 60 point move. Versus like something like, let's say, Palantir, where I'm going to be sitting in it for a long ass while. I also like intraday, I continually toggle back between net change and net percent change. So I'm always seeing what's acting the strongest, and then I'm continually taking notes as far as what's showing up continually over and over and over again. Whether or not there's a pattern or like a trade there is not necessarily true, because like it could be a $2 stock, but for instance, like those quantum names, like the only reason I caught those is because they kept showing up on my net percent change, and I just happened to be like, some dudes on Twitter were talking about it, and that it put it on my radar. Like that's kind of why a lot of times I talk about like social media and like these guys doing the work for you, because if you have your own style and strategy and you just build a watch list out, all you're paying attention to is like the tickers that people are sharing. You're throwing those tickers in your watch list and then let the trade come to you. Whatever pattern or whatever it is that you're looking for, you're just, you're making your own. But I don't pay too much attention to stuff that's like getting whacked. I do kind of like, I mean, obviously don't disregard it. Another kind of thing that I do is when I'm toggling between the net change and net percent change, I like going to where the green meets the red and watching what names are fluctuating, like what names are going green versus going red and vice versa. Because
Yep.
it gives me a feel or like a kind of like a feel for momentum. And a lot of times I'm not back when I was day trading heavily, like my entire strategy was built around the first 60-minute range. And so even not day trading, I'm still applying like that kind of knowledge and information in terms of based on the behavior of that first 60 minutes and the range that's put in and what we're doing on top of like whether or not we're gapping higher or gapping lower is going to help me determine whether I think that we're going to be having a trend up day, a trend down day, a reversal day, which interestingly I found funny on Wednesday because like how many times do you hear guys tweeting like, hey, when we have a Fed announcement, the first move is usually the false move. And that's exactly what we got. Like we couldn't have probably asked for a bet for longer term bullishness. We probably couldn't have gotten a better reaction out of Wednesday. And then even better on Thursday being that we still saw a little bit of red, but we didn't get like wild follow through to the downside post Wednesday, which I was just like, dude, holy shit. Like I don't know. I mean, you got to obey stops. You know, if you got your trail stops in or hard stops in, however you kind of like manage your risk, like you got to obey that. Like just because you think that, you know, the first move, the false move, or vice versa, you know, whatever your theory is, like you still have to respect the price action. But I don't know. Yeah. What a dude, I feel like I need to like sleep for like a month. Like this whole kind of last like 6 months, even a year, I feel like I've just been like brain is just constantly engaged. But
I
yeah,
love the idea of having your watch list and then going to see what other people are charting about the things on your watch list, right?
oh yeah,
Whether you're wrong or right, that doesn't matter, right? You're trying to get the most information to make the best plan going forward.
yeah,
And people can have a wildly different chart than you, but that doesn't mean that you should discredit it, right?
yeah.
Because it's in
We're
the
just
realm of
looking at it a little differently
possibility.
than you are.
And it opens your mind, I feel like, to just open thought, right? Of, hey, I'm bullish this, but this chart, like, it could pull back another 10 or 12%, right? And maybe that's where I put some stink bids in, or maybe if that happens, I'm out, right? Depending on what your trade is. So I don't just use stock twits. I do use Twitter quite a bit for that too. And I just love punching in the ticker I'm looking at and seeing what other folks are saying. Obviously, the three of us are blessed to kick around different charts with each other. But yeah, seeing other people chart differently and learning new things. Yeah, let it be crowdsourced and do the work for you that way.
I
When I'm
got an entire watch list that's just labeled FinTwit,
Awesome.
and so as I get them, I don't chart them right away. I just add them, and then when the market breeds or like on a week like this, I can go take a look. But uh, if you are not open, in my opinion, this is life conversation, not just market conversation. If you are not open to the realm of possibilities that exist outside of your world, you are way short-sighted. Doesn't mean you won't have a awesome and fulfilling life, but I think you can add levels that unlock amazing insights, amazing thoughts. And dude, this journey for all of us in the markets is a self journey. It is not a journey against anyone else. I think I see a lot of times in FinTwit. This is the bad side of FinTwit where people are calling each other out. And not like I typically, unless you get under my skin really badly, it's not typically where I go because, dude, even the bad information is great information to learn from. Um, and if you're not taking advantage of all the information that we have at our fingertips and applying it to your work in some form, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. But that's my personal opinion. Everyone's got their own opinions around this. I have a FinTwit dedicated watch list, and I will always have that because I assume that everyone in the room is smarter than I am.
Yeah, same.
So, um,
I mean,
that's
I go back and forth. Like sometimes I'm like, what is it that like I don't know? I go back and forth. Like, and I try to look at myself from both perspectives. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming back to the conversation of having so many names on your watch list. And I have my Excel watch list that's about 200 names that I just keep updated. And when I'm really on a heater charting, like I'll go through all those 200 names, but 1,400 names, 1,600 names, that becomes overwhelming. And your eyes start to cross and you just got to take time out. Sorry, GP, not knocking your eyes or your vision or anything, but I can't look at the screen that long. And I love the seat time and I love to chart, but I want to be able to reduce that effort as much as I can. Not necessarily reduce my seat time, but take away some of the things that I'm never going to buy, right? Or be interested in, or slow like a turd, right? Like I like to have something with some movement in it. And 200 is a pretty good list. And when I chart all 200, that's a long period of work, and I just don't see how I could do too many more than that. So that's how I use the
John Boyd,
crowdsourcing of the internet.
John Boyd, author of like, I don't know, he's an author of like several books. I think he does a lot of interviews too, but the way he also uses his watch list, kind of same thing. He's probably got, I don't know how many thousands of names on it. He only pays attention to the number of stocks that are green on his list, and he writes that number down and he charts that like an indicator. So day
I actually
one,
like that. That's smart.
like day one, I mean, yeah. I kind of use it the same way, but I'm not as probably calculated or as meticulous as he is. He just got one of those big, desk calendars,
Hmm.
and he just writes the number down. So like if the number's growing, obviously the momentum is, picking up in the bullish direction, and then kind of vice versa the other. But hey,
Yeah,
guys,
it's a
I
great
gotta
way to
run.
it's a great way to identify trend across everything as opposed to just looking at the cues or SPY like you're getting everything underneath, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Hope you
So
guys have a great Christmas. I gotta rumble.
Nick, love you.
I
Take care.
will.
Merry Christmas to you and the fam.
You guys too. Be safe if either you're traveling, and I'll catch you Thursday.
All right, now that Nick's gone, boy, what a moron. No, I'm just joking, Nick.
I think so. If you're pressed for time, Ben, not you personally, but in general,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it starts. So like a lot of my starting points is I'll I have my watch list, and then you have category watch lists, right? And so I'll go through and chart all 30 components of the Dow, right? And let's say the top 10 of the Qs and the top 10 of, to give you an idea. So you're doing about 50 charts, top 10 of the SPY to get a kind of a general idea of what the trend is holding. I think that's a great place to start in general. I also love going through the 52-week lows and 52-week highs list nearly daily because you get to see an idea of what's sitting at the highs and what's sitting at the lows and chart a few of those names as well. So on any given day, I'll probably look at maybe 50, 60 charts. And on the weekends, I'll do the bigger number. But one gives you the trend short
Yeah.
term, one gives you the the analysis, right? And look, we're still wrong even after doing all of that stuff, right? Ultimately, we're in a probability environment, and so the probability environment is um, most probably they're going to stop you out and rip the other way. That's the probabilities. And look at AMD, right? AMD is a great example. That pivot low of 121.83 could not find a buyer last week in OPEX, right? And what did it do the first 3 days today, right? So, or first 2 days this week, it gave you it even rejected it on Friday, that 121.83, nearly perfect. Um, but what do you see about this chart? This chart has been miserable, but what's sitting right underneath that? Underneath that is not only a pivot, not only is a base, declining volume, yep, 100%, but the weekly 200-day moving average, right? The simple moving average, it is a point in a bull market, not bear market, not sideways market, but in a bull market, it is a point where people look for entries. And you have the pivot there. So it looks like right now it hasn't. So this is a great weekly candle, even though it sucks. Did not open below. I mean, like overall weekly, it's still in a downtrend, right?
Yeah.
But this weekly candle is showing you that buyers were done going into Thursday. I mean, sellers were done going into Thursday. This week, we didn't even open close to the bottom of last week. We opened way above it, and we are now pushing towards the pivot high from last week. Once we take that out, most likely this continues for a couple of weeks, right? Probably into January OpEx, and then could see some consolidation or whatever into earnings or whatnot before it takes off again. But these are charts that if you're like, well, I want to buy, I kept getting people saying, I want to buy AMD at 90. And I'm like, what are you looking at to see 90? Like, what is your charting conversation? Because if you aren't putting all of these pieces together, if you aren't stacking the information for a better thesis, 90, yeah, it's possible, but 90 almost puts it back to before any of the AI stuff happened. And it's 100% possible, but you have the weekly 200 there. So what are you looking at, right? Like what's your assessment? And you see it on declining volume. So it's just stuff to figure out. And like I personally think AMD outperforms Nvidia this year.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, not this year.
I brought it up a couple weeks ago about what a turd, right? But I said that as a long-term shareholder, um, with wishes on it continued to be a turd to be able to add some more, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about, I don't know how many times, of how terrible of a trader the name is, but long term, the trend is up and to the right, and it's not showing reasons uh, to disbelieve that at the current moment. So when I see the chart, like, yeah, it looks bad, but you have to be able to realize where your spots are. And for anyone who had 90, I think my lowest price was around 110 that I would be looking at, and that's right around this level right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the 125, 120-ish spot makes total sense. Well, we might revisit that in the near term, but over the long haul, I still obviously I'm still very invested in AMD, so I still think it's a great investment over the long term.
Yeah. It's just trying to help people see what I'm seeing. Um, I think is primarily my goal in general. Um,
I actually posted it. I posted quite a few charts earlier today. I haven't been posting charts in a while. Part of that is just the schedule that I've been living, but also I when I'm coming back into these charts after not looking at them for weeks or months, And in this AMD case, I mean this chart I think went back to uh, earlier this year, so it's been probably April or March when I drew this chart. I mean, it still holds up, and I love when I chart something after months of not looking at it, it still holds up. So
Yeah.
that gives me some conviction that the chart and the trend are likely still pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, right? I think that when you draw horizontal pivots and 2 years later it comes back and tags this horizontal pivot, you're like, oh, I wonder why I drew that. And you're like, doesn't matter. I drew it and it came back and it held. So
Yeah.
it's probably something of relevance, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so that's that's the thing. And so a lot of people are expecting a crash, right? And we constantly, so the VIX was up how much? 75% on Wednesday?
Something it was up something crazy. Let's
Like,
fight.
yeah. So all that told me was that someone was really offside position wise,
Yeah,
right?
74%.
Yeah. So like that, all that really told me was someone was offside going into that, and they got ripped, and that was it, and it's done, right? We haven't made another high since then. Um, is when you see these types of moves in the VIX, um, my my immediate thought is, are we in World War III? Oh, we're not. So why are we having a 75% move up in a VIX? It's flow related, it's all that stuff. And I was just looking at the VIX in 2017, which is the first year Donald Trump took presidency. And guess what happened in 2017?
Same thing.
Not same thing. We actually had the lowest historical VIX ever in his first year. With everyone talking about how much volatility Trump will cause, it was the tail end of his presidency where all that volatility kind of picked up and got realized. It hit under 10. That was 2017.
Yeah, right there. I just circled it.
Yep. So like this notion that I keep seeing on FinTwit that volatility will increase with Trump's presidency, I'm not discrediting that, but I think first it gets lulled to sleep, right? So you could see, remember, do you remember 2017 from a price action perspective?
I do remember it.
It was literally this.
Yeah, it was just a grind higher, step by step.
Yep. So what if we're going to repeat that here into 2025?
There's 2017 for you. Right there. Just one. I mean, it's pretty magnificent, actually. One big crash.
Yeah. Right? And then so this is my thought process of 2025, FYI, trying to give some color around what I think is going to happen in 2025. Um, it's going to be this steady grind higher into 2018. You may get that final push up. And if you remember, my final push up target is around 770, 771, 4, somewhere around there. Um, and so I can see it being a steady grind higher and traders not being rewarded, but longs being rewarded. Whereas this year has been all about traders, right? Thinking about the crazy dips and crazy trades that you've had to do this year, right? That August 15th, August 5th was a 17% move down in the queues in like 2 days.
Sorry, I'm trying to
No, you're fine.
scale it into the entirety of the first Trump administration. There you
Yeah, it
go.
was a tail end, dude. It was his 2018 was a bad year for him, right? We had that tamper tate uh
The taper tantrum.
Taper tantrum. Yes, there we go. I'll get there eventually. It is Christmas Eve. Taper tantrum at the end of 2020, 2018, 2019, and then 2020. You see the volatility you see that broadening wedge starting at the end of 2017. So this is what I think is our journey to a point, right? Because initially he will be what, how old is he? 74, 78? Somewhere.
Yeah.
So initially he'll be make America great, everything else, and then the Trumpisms will kick in and he will do what he normally does, which is he'll fire Elon, he will fire Vivek, he will cause mayhem. It's his general pattern. Start quiet and then
It's the MO.
yeah. And so to win, to do everything okay, I hope he changes. But the old phrase, "It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks," rings true here. So I would be more worried towards the tail end of his presidency than I would be in the beginning of.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it goes if the market. I mean, we kind of gotta take this part out of the chart. Um, but yeah, you had 2017 very similar, 2019 very similar. 2018 was the bit of the outlier, and then obviously we all know what happened in 2020. Um, Massive fall off at the beginning of the year to uh, the most historic ramp in 8 months we've ever seen. I think that's pretty
Yeah,
fair to say. Um, and you know, we can talk about inflation and why this or that caused it, but the same thing that caused inflation was the same thing that helped create this massive run in 2020 and the beginning of
yeah.
2021. Um, we haven't talked crypto yet, GP. You want to jump into some crypto for the last couple of minutes, unless there's any questions from the crowd. We got a light crew around today. I mean, we realize everybody's traveling, but we said, what the hell? We wanted to pod anyway.
Yeah. It's the same as it was the last couple of weeks, which is Bitcoin show it can expand its market cap. So there is accumulation going on in the alts
Yes,
and they are trying very, very hard to shake in the
yes.
alt world, but it's in an effort to accumulate so we can run higher. And I think some of the moves that are coming out of these alt names, it's going to require you to have some patience in the short term, but once they start materializing, are going to be um, fairly damn epic. Like I think Soul looks fantastic, Sui looks fantastic. Um,
I really like ZRX, Zero X Protocol. Uh,
yeah,
that's a name that I'm keeping on toward the top of my watch list. I know last week I talked about Floki and Pepe, and you're in Pepe, I believe, right?
yeah.
But I really like this ZRX. I threw up some crypto charts earlier today, and really the one that I don't know, that is probably the most eye-opening to me comes back to what we've been saying about the disparity between Ethereum, ETH, and what we're seeing in Solana. When I just kind of look at what ETH is doing, like I'm not saying it can't go up, and I've been a long time ETH holder. I just keep coming back to Solana is going to replace it. And looking at Bitcoin and then Ethereum, I can't help but kind of be more convinced in that. I would love to see somebody's chart who tells me otherwise. Um, but Bitcoin dominance is waning, and Ethereum is still weak. And I noticed that by continuing to look at the ETH BTC pair, and it just I'm going to have to replace this with a Solana BTC pair, I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, just looking at the Bitcoin and Ethereum charts has me even more. Not again, not that Ethereum is not bullish. I just think that there is less upside in Ethereum than there are some other names.
Which makes sense. New platform, new ways of doing things. Number twos are always ripe to be taken over because, dude, ultimately ETH is expensive, right?
There you go.
Comparatively.
There's ETH versus Solana, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can see that thesis and I kind of agree with the conversation. We talked about how ETH was weak months ago, right?
Hmm.
And it was noticeable and it continues to underperform, so to speak. Doesn't mean it can't also go up with the rest of everything else because there
Of
is a lot of
course.
money there. But the question is where, like, crypto is not about going up, it's about outperforming, right? Getting
Who's
your,
going up the most, the quickest?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And so obviously the other, what platform is Doge on, or is that just independent?
It's its own thing.
It's his own thing. So I saw it this morning that In-N-Out Burgers tweeted whether they should accept Dogecoin or not, right? And so uh, I, 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 I don't know if it gets to where I think it's going, Dogecoin, but if it does, it's gonna be really, really nice for everyone if you can hold.
Holding Doge till the Dogies come home.
Can you imagine if it becomes a digital currency, like an actually widely accepted digital currency?
Yeah, I mean its value is obviously going to be much greater, right? If it
Yeah.
were to do that.
So like that's the as we're talking about this stuff, I am reminded on how annoyed I still am by Michael Saylor.
Please,
Um,
please go on.
right? So like I my I have no issues with you being bullish, right? I have no issues with you doing your grifting routine. But my thing is, where were you so vocal when 3 months ago Bitcoin was sitting at 60 grand? Why are you making your shareholders pay top dollar? Where were you not raising like crazy at 60 grand? Why weren't you trying to increase your float from 300 million to 10 billion at 60 grand? Like, why are we, what is this thing at 100,000 that was any different at 60,000? And that
Yeah.
was only 3 months ago. I'm not even talking about 40,000, right? And so this is the stuff that, this is why keeps people away from crypto, right? I think in general is because this type of epic grifting, where are you at the lows? Where are you at the consolidation phase? Why are you on your pedestal at, I don't think it's the top, but at the interim top, right? Like, so I agree with his overall stance. And then he posted something like, I don't know, this guy for the last 7 years has been averaging Bitcoin $30 a day and has put in like 98,000 and is now worth 2.3 million. This is the exact strategy that that MicroStrategy is doing. I was like, no, it's not. He is mission agnostic. He is putting in $30 without fail, without what it is. You are grifting at 100,000, right? Like saying this is our strategy. And I'm
Well,
like,
I
I just
think
don't like this behavior. Like it's just so Wall Street.
I forgot where I saw it. It was probably on X, but and forgive me if the time is not exactly right, but somewhere I think I want to say over the last 6 or 8 weeks. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five. Yeah, that's about right. Over the last 6 or 8 weeks, they've bought a quarter of all the Bitcoin that they hold.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying that as anything derogatory. I just think per his view, right? If you're buying in the 70s and 80s and even $90,000 range, like that's a bargain to him. And yeah, we topped out at 108. I mean, I don't know. It's not my style to buy a quarter of my position when I'm already up toward a higher limit. You know, like I want to buy lower when I can buy lower. I have no problems buying higher when I need to buy higher, but a quarter of all that they've already owned has been over the last 2 months. And I mean, you have some deep beliefs that it's going much, much higher to do that. And I don't know, to me as a public company, that's hard for me to hard for me to discuss what accountability that is, right, to investors in the company.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like I don't disagree if you have a longer picture what he's saying, right?
right,
Which is
right, right.
Bitcoin is going higher, right? It has a proven track record that no matter the dip, it has gone higher. So I can understand that strategy. My thing is your vocality was nowhere to be found really at 48,000, which was only in August,
Right.
right? Which was only in August. You
It
were,
reeks of pumper, right? I think
yeah,
that's what you're getting at. It reeks of pumper. And
it's he's trying to shine light in his views, right? I think that's what he's talking about is like even at $100,000, this is so cheap, and I can understand that point of view. But you should have been telling all of your constituents at 48,000 that we're doing this, we should be buying, but like doing it here, it just really smells of irresponsibility, right?
yeah,
And people who are buying Bitcoin for the most part at this point are the ones who are like, oh, did I miss out and have like 5, 10 grand or whatever? And you're like, um, I think it's just I don't like the behavior. It's a personality conversation. This is not a commentary on the stock itself or Bitcoin, but just this
yeah,
type of behavior, right? So like if you heard me talk about Tesla in the 100s, it hasn't changed because now it's at the 400s. I was pretty vocal about it then. I was pretty, I even did a post. Like they're pretty consistent about the conversation that it'll be a matter of time, but it'll be fine, right? Like, so load up when you can. So if you have conviction in like you tell everyone to buy when it's cheaper, not when it's already at the highs, and then
yeah.
you don't.
It would be different if like there was a pivot, right? And he was all in on something else, and then it's like, okay, I'm buying Bitcoin here, right? Like I think it's two different frames of mind, right? Like there's one is like, okay, I'm pivoting to something, but the other one is uh buy higher, buy higher, buy higher.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, ultimately I think he'll be right, but um it just rubs me the wrong way. But not everyone in this world rubs me the right way. So
Well,
um
I think um I just from a corporate responsibility point of view, I mean, he is the chairman.
yeah.
And obviously, uh, most, I would say, if not all, are in agreement with him that are part of the board or who are major investors in
Yep.
MicroStrategy. So
But let's talk
everybody's risk
about
profile is different, is
yeah,
basically
yeah.
what I'm saying. Everybody's risk profile is different.
So let's talk about the chart in Bitcoin though, right? A little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
So the the chart in Bitcoin has been interesting. That volatility candle from last week, I think, right?
Yes.
Was it last week? No, 2 weeks ago, December 5th, right? We are essentially inside that candle. this whole time. We tried to break above it. Huh?
Almost doji looking candle there. Yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
volatility.
That big volatility candle where it tried to break highs, went to the lows, pretty much wiped out both sides in one single daily candle. We've been kind of in that range for the most part. It tried to push up on lower volume and then got rejected, but didn't even get back down to it. On the daily, we are holding the first test, multiple test of the 50-day moving average, but the 4 hour and the golden 2 hour that I've been watching for a few months now are still leave some room to be desired here. The 4 hour, you have the 50 potentially crossing down below the 200, so you have a potential daily 4 hour death cross. On the 2 hour, the 50 is starting to curl up. So there's still going to be some back and forth here, but I think this is starting to solidify itself for upside movement, right? So um
I
it
think we have to see something within the next week. I think it has to make a move within the next week.
yeah, I hope it's in the next few days, honestly, because Coinbase sucks. But yes, that's personal bias. Um but so I don't actually own any MicroStrategy anymore, but I do own Coinbase, and so um, I'd like to see Coinbase stop being a little turd. And for some reason, it's tied to their never holdings of Bitcoin. So um,
Yeah,
would like,
the 98, which is on the 4 hour, 98.459, so we'll just call it 98.5, is a big level. Um, our friend T Stonk tweeted about it earlier, and I replied to him like, I really think 99 is key, and we need to be Bitcoin needs to be above a 99, quick, fast, in a hurry, and sustain that,
mhm.
or we're going to come right back down and test this 92 again.
Yeah,
And a drop below 92, you're going to have a lot of people bailing out. And
yeah, I can see
we'll,
that.
we'll see what happens from there. But in general,
But so like just
um,
one other thing before you go to the next chart.
yeah,
So that the I my level that I'm watching is the close of that volatility day candle. I think it's 96.2 or something around there. Um we've tried to break that level now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days so far, and we are now back above it. So that's the level that I'd be watching. But the other side of a lot of this conversation is the stuff that's happening in the stock market we can get to, but let's continue with this.
yeah, no, I was just going to say I like to look at the total market cap of all of crypto, and it's showing basically the same thing that Bitcoin is. I'm flashing them back and forth here. Here's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Here's the total market cap. And Bitcoin obviously is daddy, right? And it needs to move. And I think we need to be about 3.4 trillion total market cap, which we're not too far away, but you have a death cross then on this chart
Yeah.
on the smaller time frames with the 4 hour is what you were looking at, and that's what that was on too. So I completely agree. Once smaller time frames last longer, right, it affects the larger time frames, and
Yep.
larger time frames are what you like to use as your base, but the smaller time frames can give you inclinations as to what's going to happen on that longer time frame
Yeah. And
when
then
you're trying to
I
see
think
trends.
that's exactly like, so the 4 hours potentially approaching a death cross, which I think gets saved because the 2 hour is curling, right? So,
Yep.
right. So like this is the stuff that we watch on a day-to-day, intraday basis that I think helps people grow and understand what's going on, because it's time frame misalignment. And when it's time frame misalignment, you have choppiness. It's just something to pay attention to, right? It's on the daily, it's still holding where it needs to, but on the 2 and 4 hour, it is choppy. Not everything's aligned. So once those things start to align, that move goes from this to this, right? So that's kind of what we're paying attention to.
Right. I was telling T Stonk earlier that I've been kicking myself for getting out of my H bar position because H bar has just been going stupid. I mean, I don't feel too bad for me. I pivoted it all into Link and Uniswap.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly, you know, poor bags over here, but at the same time, like H bar has shown strength that I didn't really anticipate it showing, especially over the last, what was that, 6 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yep.
Anywho, that's just my own personal womp 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 story.
Yeah. So on a completely side note, StockTwits just posted uh, most popular OG users of 2024. I don't know what OG users means. I don't know if they have a criteria there, but outside of Wall Street Jesus, I am the second most added OG user of 2024.
Oh, well, congratulations, GP.
Yes, I get an entire fruitcake for myself.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry fucking Christmas.
I have no idea what any of that means. I am very appreciative of their community that they've built. Ben, we wouldn't be having this conversation
Yeah.
ultimately if it wasn't for StockTwits. So very appreciative of,
Only second to Wall Street Jesus, huh?
yeah.
Where's that post? I gotta find that post. Oh, is it the wrapped post? No.
StockTwits account posted it.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm looking at their account right now.
They just literally posted it
Oh, they just literally posted.
17 minutes ago.
Okay. 17 minutes ago. I see 21 minutes ago. So
It
was it a
says,
reply?
no, looks like a regular post.
Weird.
It's interesting that it's not on their. Wow, you don't actually see it on their in their post.
Did they cash tag too many things in their algo?
They did. They did.
That's what happens, you fuckers. Yeah, I see it now. GP number two. Wow, nice, nice, nice. Love you, GP. Congrats, brother.
I don't know what any of that means, but it's just nice to see the work being acknowledged, right? Been on the platform for 11 years.
GP number one, or go fook yourself.
So can we talk about a few other things before we head
Yeah, I've
out?
I've got like 10 more minutes, sure.
Okay. So what is going on with small caps first? Your thoughts and and this interesting strength in the dollar and the 10-year. Now the 10-year is sitting above the Fed funds rate, which is kind of interesting.
I mean, do you want me to answer your question?
Yeah.
You really want me to?
Hmm.
Um, I think well, first, before I say what I'm about to say, you're right that the IWM is a collection of stocks that is bound to fail, right? Because the idea is not to stay in the IWM forever.
Yep.
Second to that is we know this the Russell index is jam packed with financials, and not every financial is great, and not every small business is great. This comes back to my there's going to be some pain thesis, because what does a poor economic environment hurt the most? It's not the megas, it's the
Small
smaller business.
business. Yep.
And again, I'm hearing this is anecdotal evidence, and you guys know I love to point at it. Um, I keep seeing stories and hearing stories of um, companies ramping up and already buying inventory for 2025. And, there's concerns about what the economic environment is going to be with tariffs or no tariffs or whatever else may come their way. And they do not have the wherewithal to stand as strong as their mid cap and mega tech brethren. And I think we're starting to see some of that play out in the chart. Now, the chart,
But technically, it looks like just a handle formation in a
yeah,
monster cup and
yeah,
handle.
yeah, 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 it does. I'm going to pull up my chart that I had created as a roadmap so long ago that held up pretty dang well, of the IWM, and just to see where we're at now. I was looking at this earlier today and I was like, oh, she is. There it is. So it's messy, but I'll clean it up for you here.
That's a good looking chart, man. That takes time.
So this I charted this probably 18 months ago. So somewhere over in this range, I want
Yeah.
to say. And it's played out, I mean, to the fucking letter. Um, I'm not saying we have a breakdown within the range, and if anybody keeps up with my channels and how I do channels, you're never out of channels. You just create a new channel, right? So that would be the new channel, and it's not exact, but it's pretty bang on close to that high end of the channel. I wouldn't be surprised to see a pullback into the 190s. Um, it would suck to see that happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, as I was looking at this, I threw up what the moving averages look like, and I'm gonna sorry, I know it's a mess because there's a lot of detail on here. Work with me here, please. There we go. It's not going to surprise me in the least to see it come down here and bounce somewhere. And that doesn't mean it's going to happen in the next week or two, but it's going to find the bottom of this channel somewhere. It's going to find the top of this channel somewhere too. And I know bulls are hoping the top comes before the bottom. But I don't like it. I sold out of the remainder of that TNA trade that I was in. It's just not for me. And if you can time the trade right, you do pretty good, right? Like if
Yeah.
you can time the trade right, you do pretty good. But otherwise, I mean,
It's been somewhat miserable, right?
you're not going to get this 2020 move, right? Like that should not be anyone's base case. One should be looking for moves like this or like this or like this, right?
Yeah.
And it would be great to think that that happens all over again. But there was a lot of pullback in that, if you can see that.
Yep.
So I just for my own health and well-being, it's not something I like. It's not something I like to be in. Um, I made a few dollars and that's okay. But there are other things. I mean, I have a better stomach sitting and watching the volatility of my crypto portfolio than I do the IWM, which again is destined to fail, in my opinion.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Give me your take. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of people who are trapped from 2021 to 2022. We got an incremental high and then we came back and sold off. And this in a very economic, very rate sensitive, very everything sensitive index is normal. Did I think it was going to break out and go higher? Yeah, because bullish momentum was was pretty high, but sellers creeped in and then they rejected it and they tore it down last Wednesday.
Well, it's easy
We
to
have
see, right? I just put the volume profile up there, and
uh,
you had all these people who had bought up here in 2020 and 2021, and they've been trapped for this long, right?
yeah.
And as soon as you get out of that range, as soon as you get over that huge volume bar, that means they're positive or at least break even, and they don't want to be stuck in that shit trade anymore.
Yeah, and that's usually when the shit trade becomes like Adonis-like, right? And so I think you're in the situation where it's gonna become Adonis. I am long via calls for February now because January got smoked. Fully transparent from that perspective. Everything I had in January is now essentially zero. Unless we have a miracle going into Jan OpX, they will remain zero. But I got long February because I still think it's what we just talked about, which is a lot of trap buyers and calls are cheap. It's worth taking the shot, and I will take, even if it loses again in February, I will take that shot again and again and again because it's the premiums are so cheap. The 245 calls for IWM in February are a buck 40 right now. And that to me is a 10% move higher in 2 months, which is something that the IWM can do in a week, as we've seen many times before on the downside. Not as much on the upside, but um, for an index that can do that in a week or a handful of days to be only $1.45 is cheap. It's really cheap, and it's worth taking that shot, even if it fails. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that,
yeah,
and that goes to show the different way we think of trades, right? Like for me, I want to see it clear this volume shelf again before I would get active, and for me, it would be a short-term trade at that point, right?
yeah,
Uh, Under last week's low, and it risked falling down to about 207, 208,
it does. It does.
and
And that's accurate.
yeah, I mean, is from this point, was that about 4 points higher versus 14 points lower? Is that to me, it's a risky trade. But for what little I have in it, it's not enough for me to want to be a participant.
And we filled the election gap last Wednesday. We've spent the last 4 days. We spent 2 days rejecting it. Yesterday we had a doji, and today we are up, but we're still underneath that elections gap, that same level that's been miserable for many years, 2022-24. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done here, but the cheapness resembles how no one believes in the move. So it's possible. I
Yeah.
think it's a handle here. And if this handle works out, it's a 27-point handle, 26-point handle or so. So the upside move would be to 270 from here.
So do you think the handle is last week's low? Because I can see that, I can play devil's advocate here and say it looks like it should be around 207 or 208 should be the low of the handle.
Um,
Let me clear the screen
yeah,
so I
yeah,
can
hold on one
see a
second.
little better.
I usually do fibs on the handles, which is around a 38 too from the
Yeah, I
bottom.
just kind of eyeball it. So you might be right, but my eyeball would have about 210.
Yeah, I think around 213-ish is a possibility, which is the
Yeah.
38.2, which is typically the handle retracement. Um, but on stronger charts, it can be at the 23.6, which it broke underneath. And if we reclaim, and the reason that's more important to me here is because of the candles that are sitting in this range,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah, I
so
don't disagree with that. Yeah.
and we last week's low, we didn't even test this week,
No.
right? Yeah. So that tells you the strength of whatever last week's crap was. It tells you the strength of this week's move. Maybe
But
we
but
do
that's
it.
it. That gives me the pause, right? Is
Yeah,
we didn't retest it this week. It might be a little bear flag into it to build it. And we're talking fractals, obviously, not daily sessions. So if
but
we
it's a double. It's essentially a double bottom, right? Because this is the election low that it's testing. If you pull up the IWM weekly, it's essentially the election low. So last week was the double bottom, and this week didn't come back and test it. So to me, that's bullish,
all
right? So
right.
you fill the gap and you hold above it for the next week. Dude, I've been wrong on IWM bullishness for the better part of the last year, so I can't. I got no halos to shine, but
No, no, no. I love having the conversation, right?
yeah,
Because we are different. We do different things. We have different styles. And right, if I'm looking at it and I see what you're talking about, the election low, right? Like there it is.
yeah,
Um, I would look at it more of, and I'm just going to draw. I would look at it more like that, which me just freehanding it, I wasn't even trying to do 212, 213, but that's what it would look more like to me, just roughly.
yeah,
So it's more like an undercut and go, right? And that doesn't mean it has to drip down in here, right? It can just come in and come out. And I don't know. It'll be worth watching.
yeah.
But I'm
It's
tired of
worth just.
IWM. IWM is like energy and minerals for me. Like
Yeah, dude.
I'm just, and this is me holding the microphone now. I am so fucking over it.
I stopped trading the XLE breakdown when it wouldn't break down. I'm like to me, this is if IWM doesn't work here, I'm done. I'm never looking at this shit again. I'm just gonna stick to my baby Tesla and move
My
from there.
baby.
Right?
Um,
So at least it treats me right and wrong in the same day, multiple times a day.
I got to give a shout out to Monkey Banana Genius. He beat me last night in fantasy football to make it to the championship round. Where are you at there, GP?
I lost the monkey first round.
Yeah, I know you lost. I was just wanting you to have to say you lost.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey man, I was surprised I made it. Patrick Mahomes has been useless this year, even though they're winning as a team.
yeah. I made it to the semifinals in two leagues, and I'm in the championship in one league. So I feel okay. That means I'm top four in all my leagues, which I'm happy with.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good. I made the semifinals in my other league, and I was my team was killing it all year. And then last week, Alvin Kamara got hurt, David Montgomery got hurt, and Young Ho Kim got hurt, all in the same week, all in the injured reserve. And I'm like, um, and then Josh Allen took a shit. So
The one that I'm in the championship in, we pretty much left that league for dead. We were
yeah,
the last team to get into the playoffs.
wow.
It's a 12 team league, and we were number 8. We just snuck into the playoffs, and now we're in the championship game. So, anyway, it's enough
All
about
right.
non-chart stuff. Love you, GP. Merry
Love
Christmas,
you. Merry Christmas to
holidays.
you and the
Uh,
family.
yes, thank
And
you.
be nicer to your kids. Don't tell them Christmas is going to be around. Um,
Oh, they knew I was joking. They knew.
I
I told them Christmas was canceled, but they knew I was joking. We've got a
know,
big
I
day
know.
planned for tomorrow. The boys were up actually this morning wanting to open presents. It's like, no, get your ass out from under the tree, kid. Um, so anyway, but
I hope their health is all good and everything is.
we're still fighting some bugs, but yeah, everybody's good. We are blessed. Like I tweeted this
Yes.
morning, if you're reading this, you are blessed, and some of us have a countenance of abundance, which are blessings. But if you're above ground and breathing, hey, you're doing a lot better than a lot of people are. So anyway,
Yep. I will not be celebrating Christmas with my wife this year. She went to New Zealand for the next 3 months, and I typically go, but I had some things to take care of.
Come on down to Kentucky. Hang out with us.
I've tasked my dad, since he's all alone, to cooking dinner for me.
Okay.
Um,
Enjoy
he's like, "What do I
Christmas.
do?" He's like, "What if it's crappy?" I'm like, "Don't order some pizza. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it."
Yeah, we'll go to a
So
Chinese restaurant and get some
I'm gonna go
pizza.
spend time with my dad, and then I'll be off to New Zealand in February to go see family. So,
Love it. All right, my brother.
all
Take
right,
care. Love you. Happy holidays.
later, guys. Later, Ben.